Hello everyone, welcome back to another Project Gladiator weather forecast. Today I'll be covering the weather for some parts of today, but mainly I'm going to be going over the weather for tomorrow, which will be Wednesday, and the weather for Thursday, which is going to be the 11th and the 12th. In this video, I will be going over the snowstorms that we could see for the western United States, for Wyoming, Montana, Idaho, Utah, and Colorado. And I will be going over the severe thunderstorms for the Central Plains, as well as the threat for flash flooding from this cross-country storm that we are expected to see blast from the west coast to the east coast this week, as well as the threat for severe thunderstorms and flash flooding for Florida. With the threat of tornadoes for tomorrow. So I will be going over all that in today's forecast, and I will also have timestamps in the description. Today's video will be a little bit more of a longer video, so I am recording this at the end of the video, so if you do hear me already say that in the video, then just ignore it. Again, I will have timestamps in the description if you're looking for specific parts of today's video. If you live in specific regions and you're looking for a forecast for only those regions, if you know that you're having upcoming severe thunderstorms or upcoming significant weather, I will definitely have timestamps in the description. So again, while you're down there in the description, make sure you're checking out the socials for Project Gladiator and joining the Discord for any updates on Project Gladiator, and I'll get on with the video. Taking a look at our composite reflectivity, I kind of want to start off with some of the threats that we are seeing for today. Even though we don't have the threat of organized severe thunderstorms for today on the 10th of October, we still have a couple regions where we could see some general thunderstorms, which don't really include any severe thunderstorm threat, such as damaging winds, tornado, or hail, with mainly just rain and maybe some lightning and maybe some higher winds. But we do have a couple of regions where we could see thunderstorms that are included in that description. Currently have this area off the coast of the Pacific Northwest, impacting the coastal regions and western regions of Washington, Oregon, and maybe even parts of California. We also have this region of general thunderstorms for Montana to Idaho, parts of Oregon, and Wyoming. We currently have a break in these two because of the mountains that we currently have somewhere around across central Washington and Oregon. If we didn't have those mountains there, then these two would most likely be connected. If we run the model a little bit forward, you can see that we do have a little bit more isolated and heavy rain showers across the Pacific Northwest on the eastern side of those mountains. But then if we take a look at some of the other regions, let's take a look at the Midwest for this general thunderstorm region for Missouri, Kansas, Nebraska, Iowa, and Illinois. You can see that we are expected to have some heavy rain across Illinois into parts of Iowa. That is going to be making its way eastward and into Illinois overnight. We are expected to have some heavy rain with this, and maybe some lightning as well, but overall this is expected to be a little bit more of a threat for heavy rain. But then we also do have these other regions here as well. We are expected to see some thunderstorms across southern Texas riding the subtropical jet. But then we also are expected to have some isolated severe thunderstorms across the Florida Keys, and that could make its way ashore across southern Florida and maybe impacts parts of Miami. But then we also have this region for Colorado and eastern in New Mexico and western Texas, where we could see some isolated rain showers there as well. As for Texas and New Mexico, they are going to be fairly isolated. It's probably going to be the weaker threat out of anything that we're going to see today. We are expected to have some localized isolated rain showers for New Mexico and Texas, with some isolated rain showers for southwestern Colorado as well. Now let's take a look at the cross-country low pressure system that we're expected to see make its way all the way from the west coast to the east coast Currently, as it makes its way across the Rockies, which is going to be the majority of today into early tomorrow, we are expected to see maybe some isolated rain showers across the Rocky Mountains. However, we aren't really expected to see ample instability to really support a organized severe thunderstorm threat. We aren't expected to see a marginal threat or above from any of the rain showers that we see across the Rockies from this low pressure system, but we are definitely expected to see some rain showers across the Rockies for today into the early half of tomorrow. But we also do have that marginal threat for tomorrow across the central plains in the Midwest, as we have a little bit more weaker advection from the shortwave trough across the central plains. And then later on this week, we are expected to have this low pressure system advect fully out into the central plains across mostly the northern half of the central plains by Thursday. If you're seeing all of this across the western portion of the low pressure system, this is going to be snowstorms, and we'll be taking a look at that later on in the video. And then anywhere across the eastern portion of the low pressure system, we are expected to see some rain showers, and across the northern portion and northeastern portion, we are expected to have some heavy rain showers that are going to be leading to a little bit more of a threat for flash flooding. So we are expected to have widespread constant heavy rain showers on the northern side of that low pressure system, with the threat of some organized severe thunderstorms, with that severe thunderstorm threat for tomorrow and Thursday. Currently, as for our SPC outlooks, we currently have a marginal threat for Nebraska into Iowa, Missouri, and Illinois for tomorrow. And then as for our day 3 outlook, we currently have a slight risk for Kansas into Nebraska and Iowa and Missouri. I will be going over these severe thunderstorm threats more in depth later on in today's video. There will be timestamps for that in the description if you're looking for specific parts of the forecast. This is as far as I'm able to get our model to go. However, later on in the week, we are expected to see this low pressure system fully translate the entirety of the United States, making its way into the Midwest and into the northern Ohio River Valley, into the New England region, bringing mainly just rain showers from Friday into Saturday, and possibly even Sunday as well. But then we mainly tomorrow, with some remnants left over on Thursday. We currently have a marginal threat for tomorrow and Thursday for this tropical disturbance that we are expected to see impact the southeastern United States, and I will be going over this more in depth later in today's video as well. We are expected to see currently Category 3 Hurricane Lydia combine forces after going over Mexico and rapidly weakening and converging with this region of development in the Gulf of Mexico, and conjoin forces and impact Florida and the southeastern United States, leading to the threat of tornadoes and the threat of flash flooding across the southeastern United States by tomorrow. Taking a look at our total precipitation, what you're currently looking at is from the beginning of the model, which is now, to the evening of Thursday. You're taking a look at the total precipitation accumulated for the entire model run so far, which will be ending at the evening of Thursday. Currently, you can see we are expected to have some heavy rain across the coastal regions of the Pacific Northwest from the waves of rain showers that we are expected to see making their way out of the Pacific Ocean, leading to some heavy rain across the coastal regions. Some locations could see accumulation up to 8 inches and possibly 10 inches, mainly across Oregon, but we could also see it in Washington as well as parts of northern California, but mainly across Oregon should be getting the most of the rainfall. What you're currently looking at now, as far as our total accumulation for precipitation, is going to be snow across Wyoming and Montana. I will be taking a look at specifically our snow accumulation for this after our rainfall accumulation for our snowstorms this week. But then you can see where we are expected to have the widespread heavy rain showers for the Central Plains into the Midwest. You can see we are expected to have absolutely tons of rainfall for South Dakota into Nebraska. We are expected to have a definitely the threat of flash flooding from a lot of the rain showers in the Central Plains, and I will be taking a look at our hydrological outlooks for this week for our flash flooding. And then if we take a look at our threat for flash flooding for the southeastern United States with that tropical wave that makes its way ashore out of the Gulf of Mexico, you can see we are expected to have absolutely tons of rainfall across the southeastern United States. We are expected to have widespread rainfall, total accumulation that could be reaching the widespread 3 inches into the widespread 6 inches, and possibly getting as high as the 7 and 8 and 9 inches across some locations. So we are definitely expected to have a tons of widespread rainfall and a threat for flash flooding with the threat of tornadoes. And again, I'll be taking a look at that later on in today's forecast. Let's take a look at our excessive rainfall outlook, or where we are expected to see the threat of flash flooding. For today, we could see the threat of flash flooding with a slight risk for southern Texas, with some of the rain showers riding the subtropical jet. And then tomorrow, we are expected to have a slight risk for the Florida Panhandle, the fairly large marginal threat extending from Louisiana into northern Florida and southern Georgia. So we are definitely expected to have the threat of flash flooding for Florida into the southeastern United States tomorrow. And then we also do have a marginal threat for the Midwest into the Central Plains because of some of the severe thunderstorms that we are expected to see tomorrow, with the marginal threat across the Midwest. And then as for our day 3 outlook, where we are expected to have just a absolutely ton amount of rainfall from that low pressure system on the northern side of that low pressure system, we currently have a slight risk for our day 3 outlook, which is going to be Thursday for South Dakota, Nebraska, Iowa, and Minnesota. But then let's take a look at our day 4 outlook. We currently have a slight risk for Wisconsin, Iowa, Minnesota, northern Illinois, and parts of eastern Michigan and northern Indiana. The entirety of our day 5, from day 1 to day 5, we are expected to have at least a slight risk for flash flooding. Or every day this week, we are expected to see the threat of flash flooding, and even on our day 5 outlook, as our low pressure system makes its way out into the East Coast, we have a slight risk for the New England region, for New Jersey into Pennsylvania, with a fairly large marginal threat around that for our day 5 outlook, which is going to be Saturday. Taking a look at our total snowfall accumulation, what you're currently looking at is the amount of snowfall that has accumulated from the beginning of the model run, which is now, until the evening of Thursday, which is going to be the 12th. You can see the primary locations that we are expected to see our snowstorms for are going to be on Wednesday and Thursday, which is going to be Wyoming, Colorado, into Utah, and maybe parts of southern Montana as well. We are expected to have absolutely tons of snowfall, with snowfall totals that are going to be in the widespread, ranging in the widespread from 3 centimeters up to possibly 13 centimeters widespread, with some locations seeing snowfall totals getting as high as 50 centimeters and even 90 centimeters in some regions. So we are definitely expected to have absolutely tons of snowfall overall on Wednesday and Thursday. We are expected to see the primary locations for Wyoming, Colorado, and Utah, with some more additional locations early on this week. For today, into early portions of Wednesday, we are expected to see some snowfall for Oregon into Idaho, and maybe parts of northern Nevada into Colorado, and parts of eastern Wyoming. And then again, more so later on Wednesday, and then into Thursday, we are expected to have quite a bit of snowfall on Wednesday and Thursday for Wyoming and Colorado. We currently already have winter storm watches and winter weather advisories for Utah and Wyoming. So if you do live in the affected area, that is definitely something you want to be watching out for. You are expected to see absolutely tons of snowfall. So definitely make sure you plan accordingly to the weather for Wednesday and Thursday, as again, you are expected to see absolutely tons of snowfall for Wyoming and Utah. Taking a look at our jet stream pattern, I'm going to be primarily focusing on our severe thunderstorm threat for this portion of the video. Let's start off with our severe thunderstorm threat for tomorrow, which is going to be the marginal threat for the Central Plains, and then we'll be taking a look at the marginal threat for Florida later on. But primarily, I'm going to be focusing on the severe thunderstorm threats for Wednesday and Thursday for the Central Plains, and then we'll be taking a look at Florida. So as I did mention, we are expected to see that low pressure system begin to make its way across the Rockies into early on tomorrow. The majority of the trough is expected to be more so across the Rockies tomorrow, with some weaker advection from the trough making its way into the Central Plains, triggering the marginal threat for Nebraska into the Midwest. Overall, this is expected to be a little bit more of a lower end threat, as the majority of our trough is expected to be further out to the west. However, over the next 24 hours, we are expected to see that trough rapidly intensify as it makes its way into the Central Plains, with mid-level flow that is getting as high as above the 100 miles per hour. So this is a definitely very strong trough. You can see looping around the low pressure system, which is very prominent across western Nebraska here. You can see that trough is looping its way out of New Mexico into the Central Plains and looping its way across the northern into the western side. Across the western side, we are expected to see a little bit more colder temperatures, which is going to be aiding in our snowstorm development. And then on the eastern side, of course, we are expected to be seeing our severe thunderstorms. As for the threats that we are expected to see from this, we are definitely expected to see the threat of tornadoes, the threat of hail, and the threat of damaging winds from this as well, as this trough is definitely very, very strong mid-level flow, and very, very prominent veering in the wind, making its way all the way along the trough, or around the trough. We are definitely expected to have quite a bit of directional shear from this, so we should definitely see the threat of tornadoes. I was going to say the threat of large hail. However, I do not want to be jumping the gun on this early. However, it does look like we could possibly see the threat of large hail on Thursday, as we could definitely see some fairly elongated photographs to support the threat of hail on Thursday. And then alongside this, we should also see the threat of damaging winds for this location as well. Taking a look at our dew points, I mainly want to be focusing on our severe thunderstorm threat for Thursday, but I also want to be taking a look at our moisture return to the Central Plains and the return of our instability. You can see we are expected to have strong southerly pull out of the Gulf of Mexico for the first couple of days for Thursday, or for Wednesday and Thursday, and then with that trough as it affects out in the Central Plains, the very strong low level and mid level winds is definitely going to be pushing on that moisture significantly, which is going to be forming a dry line that runs all the way from Nebraska into Kansas and Oklahoma, and even into Texas as well. So we could potentially see a little bit more of a extended severe thunderstorm threat that is going to be a little bit more on the lower end, further down south, but our main focus for Thursday is going to be for Nebraska and Colorado. We could definitely see the threat of a dry line developing with our cold front across Kansas into Nebraska, and then with that low pressure system across western Nebraska, with that cold front that is expected to be draping down across Nebraska and Kansas. I will be showing you that on our temperature models. We should also see some occlusion being aided by a warm front across Nebraska from that low pressure system. So we are definitely expected to have a significant threat for severe thunderstorms on Thursday, and I definitely think that we should have at least an enhanced risk by Thursday. Taking a look at our temperatures, focusing on the severe thunderstorm threat for Thursday, you can see that cold front that we are expected to have pulled and attached to that low pressure system, as well as that warm front that's going to be across Nebraska into the Midwest. You can see that cold front there as well, and then that low pressure system across western Nebraska. We should definitely see some occlusion across Nebraska with that cold front that is draped down, with that dry line that is also draped down across Kansas into Oklahoma and Texas. The cold front and the dry line should converge across Kansas to definitely give us our significant threat for severe thunderstorms on on Thursday, with a little bit of aid from the occlusion into Nebraska. You can see some of the impacts towards the west from that cold front as well. You can see towards the beginning of the model run, it is still fairly cold across the Rocky Mountains in Colorado. However, after that cold front passes through, it gets even colder, significantly colder, dropping down below freezing across the Rocky Mountains. So you can definitely see we are expected to have some fairly significant impacts from that cold front. And then as from the sheer strength of that from that low pressure system and that trough that we are expected to see advect across the Central Plains and loop back around the low pressure system onto the western side, the very cold temperatures from the cold front that has already passed through, and some aid from the low pressure system and the shortwave trough looping back around, we are definitely expected to see some snowstorm development on Thursday and Wednesday. Taking a look at our severe thunderstorm threat for tomorrow for Florida, I want to be primarily focusing on our tornado threat for Florida, as we currently have a slight risk, which is tornado threat driven with a 5% tornado threat for Florida, with additional threat of damaging winds, but no hail threat. Again, as I was mentioning earlier in today's forecast, these two storms, Gladiator and this current tropical development in tropical wave in the Gulf of Mexico, are going to be conjoining to ride along the subtropical jet and impact the Florida region in the southeastern United States area. I want to be primarily focusing on the tornado threat again. You can see we already have some fairly strong, significant tornado threat, significant tornado parameter readings out in the Gulf of Mexico from a lot of the directional shear from the tropical wave. And then as that makes its way onshore tomorrow, you can see we are expected to have fairly strong SIGTOR readings across Florida. And by the time of tomorrow, I think we could see anywhere from a 5% tornado threat to a 10% tornado threat. We typically do see 10% tornado threats with tropical waves like this, and indicated by our SIGTOR readings, we could definitely see a significant tornado threat for Florida by tomorrow. So we could see anywhere from a 5% tornado threat to a 10% tornado threat, but overall, if it doesn't go up to a 10% tornado threat, we should see at least a primary driven threat for tornadoes by tomorrow for Florida, with the threat of flash flooding on top of that as well, which I did cover earlier in today's forecast. That's all I really had to go over in today's forecast. So now that you've made it to the end of the video and you're looking for specific parts of today's forecast, which does include the snowstorms for the western United States, the severe thunderstorm threat for the Central Plains, the threat of flash flooding for both Florida and the Central Plains, the severe thunderstorm threat for Florida. So if you're looking for any of those pieces in the video, I highly suggest going down to the description. I will have timestamps in the description so you can find specific pieces of today's forecast for your location if you're interested. And while you're down there in the description, make sure to check out the socials for Project Gladiator and join the Discord for any updates on Project Gladiator. And if you live in any of the areas that I covered for the next couple of days, please stay with it alert for the time being, and hopefully I will be able to see you guys tomorrow with another forecast.